Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, die-in time is here. That's right, we're still talking Freddy's Revenge on Kill by Kill. Well, greetings and salutations, Internet. It's your old pal, Patrick Hamilton, coming to you once again from 1428 Elm Street. This is the Kill by Kill podcast, where we are dedicated to exploring the least discussed component of any horror film, the characters. We're going to unpack all the gory details of Nightmare on Elm Street 2 in the hopes that a slash teen's death is just the beginning of the jokes that we can make about them. And as always, there's only one person I trust that if we get caught between a rampaging Freddy Krueger and a fence, that she will trample me to death. The one and the only Gina Radcliffe. How are you doing, Gina?
I'm good. I would do that, but I would also try to help lift you out of a boiling pool.
You wouldn't just lift one arm and just let me flail with my legs still boiling in water?
I would do my best to drag you out, even if I have to do the pull you up by the back of your swim trunks maneuver.
Yes, that's the wedgie of life, I think, is what the firefighters technically call it.
You will thank me for when you are picking it out of every orifice of your body. You'll be thanking me for it later.
Well, I'll still be alive to yank it out of my nether regions, and that's the most important part.
It's your life that's at stake here.
It's true. But Gina, I don't want to alarm you, but we are not alone. That's right. We have a special guest. And of course, he's one of the hosts of the finest RPG podcasts available on these internets, Square Roots. And he's one of our favorite guests too, the returning champion, the one, the only, John Brandon. How are you doing, John?
I'm great. And me being here means it's going to be a hard R episode.
That's right. Things get freaky when John's in the house. And that's why he's been invited here to this really crazy pool party where the adults are locked into their room because they have a lock on the outside of their door. How does that work, Gina?
That seems like a practical joke that nobody ever bothered fixing. I mean, this is a pretty casual family. They just sort of assume, well, we're going to go to bed, so you teenagers can do what you teenagers do. Wink.
Well, the humping has to happen. You first have to somehow get those harem pants off of Mr. Merrill. Mm-hmm. I'm not really sure how that works. And then you have to turn off both the lamps on Mrs. Merrill's side of the bed. And then the loving begins.
You also have to bring a glass of whiskey and then proceed to not finish it. Just leave it on your bedside table.
Right. Just in case you want to wash your mouth out with alcohol in the middle of the night.
Well, who among us? I mean,
I need more bedside whiskeys. That's why am I denying myself this pleasure? All right. Well, before we go too much further, John, what was your first exposure to the Friday the 13th? Wait a second. Hold on. I'm sorry. Old habits, muscle memory. Mm-hmm. John, we've heard that story. We've heard the story of your first introduction to Thanksgiving. The fake trailer that we lovingly skewered and no one listened to. Tell me what your first exposure was to the Nightmare on Elm Street series.
Well, actually, it was this film.
You and I are alike in that fashion.
I was probably 9 or 10. Mm-hmm. I was pretty new to horror films, and my brother was a big horror nut, so he rented this. And the two scenes I remember most are the pool party and the shower scene.
Yes. Well, those will be some very wet highlights.
Yeah. And both were anxieties. I was very afraid of swimming and water and very afraid of public nudity. So this really got me psychosexually early.
Now, what if you're wearing shoes? What if you're naked, but you still get to wear your shoes in the shower? Does that help?
I mean, I still wear flip-flops in a public shower.
Yeah, well,
you don't think about the athlete's foot.
Yes, that's true. That is life's great horror. Athlete's foot transmitted via public shower. Before we go any further, I have a public apology to make, and that is to our very own Gina Radcliffe. Gina, I doubted your spotting of a Tina Turner poster in Grady's bedroom, and it's totally there. I thought you were talking about the Lamal picture because they have the same haircut.
I will grant you mercy because it's more prominently shown after the scene that we stopped at.
Yeah, that's very true. Very true.
When it shows up after Freddy and Jesse do a little Groucho Marx kind of mirroring each other sort of bit.
Yeah, well, let's get right in.
I was gonna say, and then you can see it behind. You can see it behind Freddy, I think, very prominently for a couple of seconds. So I will understand that you did not recall seeing it the last time because it was not all that prominent in this last section that we did. So It's fine. We're good.
It may have been her biggest guest starring turn of that year if it were not for Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, which
so what era Tina Turner poster is it? Is it like Stop in the or well not what's it got to do with it?
It looks like Private Dancer era, which I am dubious that a 17-year-old boy was listening to Private Dancer during that. Maybe his mom was listening to it at that time. I don't know.
Maybe he's a leg man.
That's possible.
I do have a piece of information about Grady's milk consumption that I shared with Patrick.
Oh my God.
But I do believe he is on the gallon of milk a day, the GOMAD program for muscle gaining. That is a extreme protein and carbohydrates intake by chugging milk.
Oh God.
Ew.
All I can think about are the farts. It sounds like hell. Right. If I ever brought up the family friend who I like through kind of grade school, he was a friend of mine, and I put friend in dick fingers. We were in the same ward of our Mormon church. And he had one of those giant Mormon families. He was the oldest kid. And his house perpetually smelled like rotten milk and diapers. And anytime I catch a whiff of it, I'm just instantly taken back to their house in La Crescenta, California, and watching the Star Wars holiday special. Because I think that was our one and only sleepover. And it really sealed the deal on ending that connection between the two of us. Because I couldn't stand the smell of their house. And I had to watch a coked up cast of Star Wars limp their way through one of the worst variety specials ever aired on television.
That's a very visceral memory.
It is. It is ingrained
That's like
in every sense.
Like you could write like a memoir just based on that memory.
So was their house also covered in bird prints and tasteful florals like Meryl Streep's house in this one?
Not to that degree. No, they were way too vanilla. And I promise you there was zero bedside scotch available for consumption.
Oh, yeah, Mormons.
Yes,
of course.
So let's get right back into it. Who's still left alive at this point in the movie? Let's start with Jesse. And during this section of the movie, he may cry just as much, if not more so, than Evan Hansen does in the second act of Dear Evan Hansen. This is not a dig. I find it impressive. And of course, we have Meryl. And she is perpetually dressed like Robin Williams doing a 2 a.m. set at the Comedy Store and doesn't care if you notice.
She's definitely got what would you say? What's a polite way of saying a masculine woman who's going to do some construction work in the backyard outfit for a lot of this film.
She's definitely dressed for backyard gardening or pruning a lime tree. It's just something that allows her to see some sun, but not too much, not on her back.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's her party. And let's assume that she had a plan in mind to seduce Jesse at this party, but she is neither dressed for a pool party and definitely not dressed for seduction.
No.
I know, but dressing like Robin Williams may have been her plan to seduce Jesse. I'm just going to put that out there. When we, of course, last saw Jesse, he was pulling a Frank Drebin by clinging to a pair of boobs to keep himself from certain doom. And when that didn't work, he ended up in bed all too briefly with Grady before Freddy came out and slashed Grady to ribbons in what is honestly a very disturbing kill sequence. It is quite visceral, made only more so because, his parents decide we're going to let someone else handle that and just eradicate themselves from the rest of the movie.
Yeah, and I have there are two issues I have with this. One ultimately it jumps ahead towards the end of the movie. One we have, and this seems to be a problem so far in Parents and Freddy Krueger movies, is the dad acts appropriately, concerned, a little angry maybe for someone whose child is screaming for help.
Yeah.
Once again, the mom just looks sort of annoyed. Like, oh, what's Grady up to this time? Jesus Christ. He's begging for help. What sort of nonsense has he gotten into this time? And then at the very end of the movie, Grady seems to have been forgotten. Like, oh, thank God we're everything's all right now. Well, Grady's still dead. Like he's not mentioned at all. Like when Jesse tells Meryl I killed Grady, her concern's for him, not for Grady. She's like, oh, Jesse. Not like, oh no, someone ought to check on Grady to see if he's okay. I think that you're lying or that you didn't do this, but it doesn't occur to me that maybe I should call the police. Maybe I should run to Grady's house and see if he's okay. You're just like, oh, fuck Grady.
No, he's obviously slipped and fallen in some, I don't know, Party City fake blood. It looks a little magenta, to be honest with you, for blood. But maybe
it's a little jello-y. It looks very shiny. It looks very like kind of gelatinous. It's very jello-y.
No, please go, John.
When you saw Grady slumping down the door after being stabbed, I didn't see any. They didn't put any body damage on him. They just put blood on him, which is weird because this is the same scene with that amazing effect of Jesse's body like splitting in half as Freddy emerges from it, which is a genuinely good effect. But Grady didn't look like he had anything other than just like some cherry sauce on him.
And the other element of that really works for me is you see Freddy's knives through the other side of the door.
Right.
And you get that, mental connection of him literally stabbing him through the entirety of the door, which brings up a question I have, Gina. Does this count as a get bunked? Because Grady is stabbed through another object after he's stabbed, which is how Sad Sandwich worked. So in my mind, that Grady's death might count as a get bunked.
I would say so, mostly because he's also almost naked.
Yes.
He has some very tiny little shorts on.
And he should have been having sex in that situation. Let's put it out there.
Yeah. I mean, in an alternate universe. Yeah.
Yes. I think it would have kept them all safe, to be honest with you. It was the magic trick that no one tried. We rejoin the action, of course, inside of Grady's now blood-splattered bedroom that he does not seem to have a lot of damage from, but that's neither here nor there. Maybe there was a framing problem. The back third of this movie has some directorial issues that we will begin to illuminate throughout. It almost feels like someone wasn't at the wheel here, because the first 2/3 I think make definitive choices, and the back third is kind of like, is it lit? Okay, works for me. Moving on. So Jesse begins performing what I could only describe as an Irene Ryan competition monologue to himself, where it's all crying and blaming someone in a mirror and a lot of finger wagging. There's a lot of miss, you forgot my coffee happening from Freddy.
Yeah, I would say that this is Freddy at his most staringest in this. For the last third of this movie, he just does a lot of staring at other characters.
Is a lot of side eye from Freddy, which is unusual. He will either talk you to death or lurk in the shadows. And here you're seeing maybe too much of him. And he also doesn't appear to have slept because they've given him very dark circles around the eyes.
He has like red eyes at one point too.
Yes, they've definitely given him the devil eyes in this one. And that's something that sort of comes and goes with his makeups.
The makeup job on Freddy is very different in this movie from any of the other ones. He's a lot wetter.
Well, everyone's wet. This movie is super wet. For not taking place on a sinking boat or submarine, it's very moist.
But normally they kind of make him look a bit like Jerky. And here he looks like just a super wet cut of meat. It's pretty gross.
It's like if you boiled bacon is pretty much what it comes down to.
Well, that is so evocative. I feel a little sick now. Like thinking about that gives me a little bit of indigestion, I gotta say.
This murder is then I guess Grady's parents notify the local PD, who, as we all know, are always on the case. So we begin to hear sirens in the background and then banging at the door. But at this point, fuck banging on the door and start kicking some shit in. But nope, it gives Jesse a lot of time to just yoink himself out a window and escape capture, which I find fucking impossible. This is now 2 years in a row. A blood-covered man, shirtless, has run away from the police. And they're like, I don't know. This town is full of shirtless, blood-covered men. How can we tell one from the other, say the local PD?
Okay, so here's an issue with direction.
Yeah.
So we have what commenced at Grady's house. And then the next scene, we see Meryl. She's walking down the stairs, buttoning her shirt back up. So was she just kind of laying there topless, like kind of, thinking over what had just happened with Jesse while Jesse's off, murdering Grady? And does Grady live next door? And if he lives next door, how does anybody not notice the onslaught of sirens at all?
They live far enough away not to hear the sirens, close enough that she's able to replace her previous shirt now with that tank and a different flowy shirt combo. Because before it was a tropical theme, now it's just straight up a very loose plaid.
Now it's, I'm not going to get laid, so I might as well just put on my comfy clothes.
That's right.
I mean, who among us has not thought, well, all right, I guess this isn't happening. You just put those jogging pants on.
At this point, did she have the Madonna style hair? What would you call that? Bandana?
It's a bandana with a bow on top of it.
Yeah.
Sort of sitch. Yes.
Like a virgin kind of deal.
That was definitely, having been a teenager in that era, that was definitely a thing. Those little hair tie thingies.
She is definitely like a virgin throughout the entirety of this film. And it's not going to change, not while being photographed anyways. What occurs next in this movie may be the lowest point, and what I think is a pretty fantastic little grimy flick. So Jesse bursts into the scene here, and what we get is a kind of level 1 scene partner exercise where Jesse's like, I killed somebody, and he keeps shaking his hands, and Meryl looks not so much at him, but sort of at a part of his neck and does some other scene. Where she's like, you're injured. I don't know what's happening. Wake up. Who are you? What am I? What's going on? And Jesse's like, I killed him.
And she seems vaguely into it.
Yeah.
She's
He's
like,
doing,
oh yeah.
Yeah, he's doing some like Steppenwolf acting exercises, and she's just like, well, I'm just going to let you bounce your dialogue off of me. And again, so little concern for Grady that it cannot be even scientifically charted. She's just like, yeah, no, that didn't happen. Well, all right, if that didn't happen, then whose blood is he covered in?
He does ask that question.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's Grady's. Oh, well, all right, glad we cleared that up. I mean, okay, well, maybe you should go check on Grady.
I wrote some choice lines from his monologue. Can I deliver them to you?
Please do.
Okay. The man inside me. He's inside me and he wants to take me again.
Yeah.
He owns me.
He owns me is a chef kiss moment because
I don't know. I like he's inside me and he wants to take me again.
Oh yeah, that's he wants to take. I was like, this could all be turned into a really, really hot romance novel scene.
Oh boy, but it's not, and that I think like this could be turned up to 11 here. Like there could be some Tennessee Williams action happening, but I feel
Oh God, that would, if only.
But I feel like Jack Shoulder's kind of like, I don't know, I got fire effects coming up. Can the second unit just take this on? Like it's just so flatly directed, and the actors are not given any semblance of what they're trying to communicate to the audience. It's so weird that this whole scene happens with zero cuts. Meanwhile, when we're finally given reprieve from it, we cut to a Sierra Madre pool party where Bobo David Lee Roth croons a tune. What is the opposite of a power ballad?
I'm so glad. I think because I am old, and also because I watched Sharp Objects, in which everybody just kind of mumbled everything in a broad Southern accent.
Uh-huh.
I now watch everything with closed captioning on.
Uh-huh.
And I was blessed with the lyrics to this song.
Please
and
deliver them to us.
It was, I should have written them down. It was something like
A Rose by Any Other Name.
Yeah, that one I caught.
Yes. Yeah, it was some sort of vaguely sort of goth love song, and it didn't look like anything that anybody at this party would actually listen to.
No, well, they're not listening. They're all in various states of undress. And if they're not doing that, the theme of this party appears to be how many upsetting shades of blue can exist in one space.
This is,
You know what's not blue? The chef's hat.
The chef's hat is not blue. That is a very red chef's hat.
There's another issue with the direction here, in that there's stuff happening. There is, questionable, let's say, things happening at this party that apparently is so large that other people don't notice what's happening. like the exploding hot dog scene.
Uh-huh.
Like maybe 12 people notice that. And like the other people across the patio don't see it happening. And it's like, okay, how big is this property?
They're in multiple levels of this estate. Why don't we call it? Yeah, nobody notices the hot dogs exploding. First of all, nobody notices that guy who inherited that chef's hat is actually making time with a real woman, which may be the most unbelievable scene in the entire movie. And later, dogs show up with human faces on them.
You know what? I do not remember anything that happened after the party. I was like, whoa, wait, is this like the director's cut? It's been years since I have seen this movie. I honestly thought that it ended after the party. I mean, I remember the part on the bus, like the little coda on the bus, but the whole thing with the factory, yeah, no, I completely blanked out on that.
I would say
I was into like a Genet and Caro movie. It just gets super weird at the end.
Yeah, it got real surreal. It got a little Invasion of the Body Snatchers in it. It got like it was some kind of weird funhouse thing. And I was like, wow, I do not recall this at all.
Yeah, I did not recall the fact that the outside of the freestanding boiler room becomes theme lit with green and red gels so that Batman can find Freddy's lair, I guess.
It was almost James Cameron lighting with the blue and the red. And it's like, oh, okay, are they doing this Terminator, end of movie factory thing? But then there's green that just kills.
Yeah, we'll get to it because we have this whole party to get through. And there's so much to talk about in every single frame. I could not believe how many times I hit the space bar to write a note. So the first one of these things that has to be talked about is that these hot dogs that explode are lined up in a very neat row. Now, it's almost...
That's something I would do.
Oh,
you're like definitely something I would do.
You would just like, I need these hot dogs to be a certain way on this cutting board before I cook them.
Yeah, you can't have them willy-nilly around. You got to have them organized.
Well, I'm not asking you to have them in a pile like discarded Lincoln logs, but this is a very neat pile. Maybe you keep them in a package.
I guess.
Thankfully, cook number 2 is our hero here. He picks up the exploding cutting board of hot dogs and just shoves them into a barbecue, and people celebrate him like he did something.
Mm-hmm. And that barbecue comes back later.
Yes, it does.
I have just in my notes just the words exploding wieners.
Yeah, I have flaming wieners, which I felt was
like there's a theme to this movie.
It might be flaming wieners. Yeah.
The rejected title was A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Flaming Wieners.
We then cut to a radio flyer filled with brand beer that ejaculates prematurely.
As a lot of people would have at that point.
Yes. And again, no one is noticing, I guess, because some people are under a towel. Where are all these people coalesce at the end of this? But if they were all in a tighter group, I think they would have escaped earlier or more easily.
I mean, the backyard gets surrounded by flames and pits to the netherworld, apparently.
Well, this franchise is not immune to pits to the netherworld. In the previous film, a woman's mom descends into some sort of phantasm pit.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
Yeah, that's a real thing. That is apparently a power Freddy Krueger has that I did not remember until here. So when someone goes, I like movies that have rules like Nightmare on Elm Street, I point you to, no, it never had any fucking rules. Freddy can do whatever he fucking pleases whenever he pleases. That's just how it is. Shout out to that fancy reel-to-reel player in Meryl's living room. That is not an inexpensive piece of audio equipment.
I was going to say, you know that Meryl's parents are like hosting some like adult entertainment with that thing like late at night.
Oh, the key parties in that neighborhood.
Oh yeah, they were totally having key parties. That's how all the children died because they weren't paying attention. I really want to write a sort of meshing between the Nightmare on Elm Street and the Ice Storm.
Yeah, I think that would go over huge.
Where instead of one of the kids getting electrocuted, they get murdered by a serial killer who visits you in your dreams.
Sure, I think it fits right in.
It would not be any more depressing than the actual Ice Storm.
That's very, very
true. Have you seen that movie?
I missed that one.
Oh,
it will give you all sorts of existential crises.
It is
Didn't that one come out during that actual East Coast ice storm?
Oh, probably.
Like
but it's probably one of the most depressing movies I've ever seen in my life. If you ever think that the idea of couple swapping is hot, all you have to do is watch the Ice Storm because that'll kill it for you.
Yeah, it'll abuse you of that notion right quick. Here's something that the dad in me leapt out, and I didn't really expect it. Jesse, who is covered in another person's blood, sits down on a couch in the living room, and Lisa, instead of going, "What the fuck are you doing? This is a kitchen conversation," just sits next to him and starts talking to him like it's no big fucking deal. You're never getting Grady's blood out of that couch.
Are you saying that you would be laying newspapers around and letting, kind of leading him over to, sit where he's not going to get anything all over? I just bought this couch, damn it.
I'm saying that tarps have two functions. One, I learned from the Flophouse. That's where lesbian gangbangs happen. Secondly, when your friend / boyfriend / he's never really going to be your boyfriend comes over, covered in another dude's blood, it's tarp time.
I don't even let my kid eat on this thing.
No, that living room was not meant for blood-covered teens. That's why they're having a pool party. I have one question about that outward-facing lock on Meryl's parents' bedroom. Is one of them a secret werewolf? And if you were to guess, which one would it be?
I would say mom, just to flip the general stereotype a bit.
Dad's not hairy enough.
No, but that's where the werewolf part comes out. No one has to be hairy enough to be a werewolf. The werewolf sort of does that work for you. Or
Right.
Although she does have the two lights on her side of the bed, which suggests that she has one of them on hand in case she needs to hit him over the head with something.
that's
I
very
figure
true.
they're just such hands-off parents. They let their kids have the party. They're like, well, they're going to be drinking, but it's on our property. At least we know they're safe. And in a reversal of roles, like the kids can lock us in our room until they're ready for us to come out.
They're that really super laid back 70s era parents.
Yes.
I mean, some of them had those. I had those. I think that if my parents had their marriage survived into my teen years, they would have all but encouraged me to embarrassing lengths to have parties where the teens were allowed to drink and get up to no good because it's safe. We're here with them. We're locked in our room, but we're here with them. That's almost the same thing as watching over them.
All I can think of is that Mystery Science Theater 3000 episode Werewolf, where that very foreign woman is given the task of saying werewolf and she can't do it. And she just says, werewolf? That's incredible. Oh, God. Werewolf. Look it up, people. And Freddy's fight with Meryl, which suddenly Jesse transforms into Freddy yet again. And they have let's call it a tussle, because I really wouldn't call it a choreographed fight. The Foley work apparently was done by a group of small angry dogs that your elderly aunt treats like children. There's a lot of growling, happening in the background. Freddy bites Lisa's leg because I think they ran out of ideas. Is that what it comes?
Yeah,
to?
he's never bitten people.
No,
did not and had not since. I don't believe so.
They do have a callback to this bite later for some reason.
Yes, it's just an excuse for that. We'll get to that because that's
his little Lost Boys mind trick on her, the eating of the biscotti.
Yes.
Now, this is where I came to the realization that, like Final Fantasy X, where you think Titus is the protagonist, but it's actually Yuna's story, this is where it switches protagonists and it becomes Meryl/Lisa's story.
Yes, it absolutely switches at the last second. They go, whoa, 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 whoa. He can't be the final girl, but we have one. Why don't we just use her?
Yep.
And so it pretty much becomes Meryl's story from this point forward. There is one brief time where it stops that. And that's the quick shout out I'm going to give to the stunt team at the Nightmare on Elm Street 2 Freddy's Revenge Stunt Spectacular. Because when she kicks Freddy in the face, you totally see that's a stunt double. On both ends of that coin, they look nothing like the people they are portraying. And it is shot very, very well lit. That is...
Yeah, we're about a step away from like the Spaceball scene where like they're everybody's got like the actress, the stunt person's playing Princess Vespa has a mustache and
yeah, we've got some stunt men in drag almost situations happening here.
This fight scene goes through this house, and I was really thrilled to get to talk about production design since this is the Kill by Kill trademark.
Yes.
But this house is kind of boring. There's a lot of bird prints, as I said before, and like just China. There's a whole China hutch that she's getting smashed into, and
but we learned that Freddy hates decorative plates.
I was gonna say that's my favorite thing. He just kind of standing there and he's like, "Fuck your plates." I love that part. It's like Franklin Mint smash.
We also learned that while Meryl's family goes all out in terms of sponsored beer and wieners, they're not really spending a whole lot on that cake. It is sad.
It doesn't even say happy birthday, Lisa. It doesn't say anything.
Some white sheet cake with some random strawberries plastered onto it. Like, drive 20 minutes down to Chinatown and get the Phoenix Bakery sponge cake with strawberries. Come on. It's a very LA joke.
I was going to say, I'm just going to run with it.
Or not Mary Berry. What would she say about that cake? I mean, it just looks bland. There's no pizzazz to it.
It looks very dry.
And also, it probably doesn't have any.
No one ate it.
It probably doesn't have any alcohol in it, which is weird because this shot reveals that Meryl's parents love a shit ton of aspertifs.
There's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on. There's every shaded kind of alcoholic mixture in the background of this very sad bar.
It looks like an absolute display on Pride Week. Rainbow colored.
And meanwhile, while this is happening, they cut away to 4 guys who are looking in through the patio door, and not a single one of them either looks scared, concerned, or under the age of 25.
Yeah, I don't know why. I guess he's also locked the doors on the house because, and you know, it's glass. It doesn't occur to anybody to break anything.
No, they're all willing to throw a patio chair later, but here it never seems to come to mind for any of them. They don't want to get involved. They just want to watch. This is also, now, I did not find this. John did. There's some sort of skeleton dog lamp in the background.
It's the
I
only
didn't see
interesting
that.
piece of design here. It looks like a kind of a Mexican Dia de los Muertos thing. Like it's this weird dog with a little mustache. It's made out of silver.
Yes, it looks like they picked it up from a shop that is vibing off of Coco as their theme.
It doesn't really, it kind of conflicts with the rest of their decor, but it's the only piece I would like to have myself. It's a cute little dog.
Yes.
That sounds like, you know, here's something I brought back from a business trip.
We picked it up of Olivera Street. Isn't it lovely? Put it by the bar.
It'll be a
But she does grab
conversation
a
piece.
It is a conversation piece, but not one you want to have. Here's something that's fun. We get a return to someone hating doors and windows. It's Freddy Krueger. But when he explodes through a windowed door, he disappears in the middle of it.
That was a fun, like, I was trying to think how they did that because that's a good effect.
Now, there's some swell special effects sequences in here. They're not all poor stage blood. Like sometimes they really step it up.
When she tries stabbing him with that cake knife, though, that is a very rubbery knife that they show for about 30 seconds.
It's a rubbery knife and not even trying to make it look like even a vaguely human torso that she's stabbing it into. I mean, it sounds like she's stabbing like a bag of hay. It's just a little like it's like a little like sound like nothing.
And going along with the lack of energy for this whole scene, she's just kind of like, maybe this time. No, let me try it.
And then she has this thing where when she doesn't know what to do, she puts her hand up to her mouth. And if that's your fetish, this is the movie for you because she's going to do it for the next 20 minutes nonstop.
And again, absolutely nobody at any point has called the police. Just nobody. I mean, I realize this is the era before cell phones, but you know, Meryl's parents aren't calling the police. You know, nobody outside is trying to, you know, run off to go find a phone. I mean, I guess the teens know how incompetent the local constabulary is, yeah. but you know, nobody is calling for help. Nothing.
No, there is one tremendous reaction shot that I found. I sent it to you, John. That is it's astounding. Like no one told these teens to react scared. They just sort of look like someone, I don't know, pissed their pants at a party and they're like, "Oh, I'd hate to be that guy." No, like this is supposed to be scary, everyone. Step it up a notch.
No. My favorite reaction is when Freddy finally appears at the party. Mm-hmm. And one of the teen guests decides to treat him as one would treat a dog that has gotten off his leash. He's literally like, "It's okay, buddy. It's all right. We're here to help you."
He's trying to talk him down.
Yeah. It's just like it's like, you know, he's trying to use psychology on him. What can we do to help you? You know? And Freddy's just like, flee for your fucking life. That's what you can do.
He just says, help yourself, and then throws him into the barbecue as
which is not at all an unreasonable reaction to such a thing.
Is that a kill?
I think he was okay. He just kind of like threw him.
Well, no, he slashes him. We'll get to that. Let's go in order, because if we don't go in order, we're gonna miss something. So right up front, this begins the pool party massacre portion of the festivities. So we're gonna try to cover the highlights of this. Otherwise, if we just went for every detail, this show would be 3 hours long. So right up front, Freddy murders a table setting. Check. Mm-hmm. Then Freddy slashes a guy wearing circus tent swim trunks, and he gets a face slashing. Then we learn that Freddy possesses the ability to make fences electrocute guys wearing pink tops, which is that electricity? Is that magic? Is it the same thing that allows Jason to transfer his soul through his heart? I'm not sure what that is.
I thought it was heat. I thought that he made them. I thought he made everything really hot.
We get a shot here of everyone running in a different direction, and the only thing missing is Johnny from Airplane yelling, "Panic! Annie M! Annie M! There's a twister coming!"
I just want to see people running towards some phone booth. The phone booth falls over.
That would be fantastic.
Or Kevin Bacon, remain calm. All is well.
My mom, after I told her how much I loved Johnny in that movie, I remember my mom telling me with a bit of concern in her voice that he was a homosexual.
Oh no!
What?
Yeah.
Oh, how does she feel about that now?
Was fine.
You know, I honestly think, and I'm not even joking about this, that for people my age at least, probably Paul Lynde and Johnny were our first exposure to flamboyantly gay men.
Right.
Absolutely.
She did not want me to model myself after Johnny, and unfortunately,
please tell me that if people say coffee John, you say no thanks. Because God Almighty, that's so fucking great.
Weirdly enough,
make of this, Johnny? I can make a hat or a brooch.
The "Do you want coffee? No thanks" is actually not an improv on the set. That was in the original movie that they had to pay for the rights to get. They just made it into a running gag. The pool starts to catch on fire, so notify Jason Takes Manhattan. There's a new fire puddle in town. Then Freddy menaces a girl wearing what I have to describe as a Charlie Brown themed one piece. It's yellow with a black squiggle.
I want that.
It looks like some sort of custom theming for a tween comedy show that would have aired on NBC around 12:30 in the afternoon. But only on Saturday. One teen is immolated by fire when he tries to escape. So,
is this the one that I was mentioning there?
Yes, when he tries to.
Okay, so he's trying to climb up the fence to escape. And then there's a fireball, which scares him, and he drops down into the bushes. But instead of falling onto the bushes, he falls to a pit to hell.
It's a trapdoor, I guess.
And fire comes out of the ground?
Yes. Well, yeah, he stepped on the match. He just happened to be in a gasoline puddle. I'm not sure. But
we had to understand that back in 1986, 87, it was very common for upper class suburban families to have a pit to hell installed in their backyard. That's how you knew a family had really made it.
Yeah, that's right.
You get the in-ground pool. You don't get that shitty Walmart above ground pool. And then you get the pit to hell.
Yeah.
Right.
They have a lanai with a rattan floor that's good for dry fucking. And and a pit to hell. That's what everyone wants. It's the American dream.
That's what the movie The Gate's about. But unfortunately, that was Canadian.
Yes. So is The Pit. So there you go. We're 2 for 2. Freddy squares off against 20 plus teens at one point, and he's felled by a deck chair. This may be his lowest moment. This is sad. When someone just chucks a white patio chair at him, and he's like, "Arr."
Yeah, he's as weak or as strong as the script happens to need him to be at any given time.
Yeah, why isn't he like Firestarter and just flaming people with his hands? Why?
I mean, let's take a moment and understand that in this movie and this movie only, Freddy is defeated by the power of love.
That's true.
It is very true. It is sadly true.
And one more death that you alluded to at the beginning of this
Yes.
episode is the guy who gets stepped on to death.
Oh, I hate that one so much. Because
Why?
well, I mean, I'm giving away what my death mentor is going to be.
Yeah.
I know that would happen. That would absolutely happen to me. Every time I'm like terrified. I'm not comfortable in crowds anyway, which, you know, is ironic considering I live in New York City, the most densely populated city in the country. But every time I read about like riots in which like people get trampled, it gives me, that's like one of my worst fears. And so even though it's a pretty crappy effect and like the sound of his neck breaking sounds like someone broke a pretzel stick next to a microphone, it's just this little sound, and then he's like, oh, he's dead. You know, he lets a little strawberry jello dribble out of his mouth, and you know, we know what happened to him.
Yeah.
And still, I hate it because that's like one of my worst fears.
Oh my God. No one knows how to scramble up a wood lattice fence at all.
It seems to me if you just kind of run at it and like maybe, you know, go shoulder first, you could probably smash through that shit. And nobody's doing that.
No. All this gave me was a flashback to that one episode of WKRP in Cincinnati, where it was the serious episode where they talked about the Who concert where people were trampled to death. And I'm pretty sure that's where I get my fear of crowds from. So shout out to WKRP in Cincinnati. Also, I'm very old.
I think we've established our age.
It's important. I have a very youthful voice, and teens seem to think I'm one of them because I'm so youthful. I come across that way. So I just want to, you know, I don't want to front. I don't want to catfish anybody to what I'm really like. Freddy also guts a teen wearing a powder blue and Easter yellow striped polo shirt. And
that was a huskier teen. Right?
He was a slightly huskier teen, so he was definitely swimming with a t-shirt at one point. And yeah, that is, he coughs up some Party City blood, and that's over. And this is when Meryl's dad, witnessing the carnage outside on his property, and he knows he's going to get hit with a hell of a fucking insurance bill.
Meryl's dad, guns cocked, tits out, ready to.
Well, this is before he even makes a play for his gun cabinet. Yells at his wife, "Get her out of here!" And the wife replies with a very exasperated, "All right."
And then she doesn't.
No, she does not at all get her out of there. She's just sick of being talked to that way. And this, of course, is when we get to that scene of ABC's China Beach hunk, Brian Wimmer, attempting to talk Freddy down with like, "Hey, buddy, it's cool. Tell us what you want." Like Freddy,
he's like about a minute. He's gonna flip a chair around and sit down backwards on it. Let's rap, man. Come on.
Like,
we all have problems here. Come on, let's just talk it out. You know,
like Freddy,
he's like a youth pastor.
Like, what? Just, I can tell that you're angry. What I want to know is, what are you angry about? You know?
It's just, we understand. We've all been mad. It's okay. Just, let the good vibes in, the bad vibes out.
Like, all of a sudden, this becomes a after-school special about Freddy Krueger and the time that he got high on angel dust.
and he takes entirely too long to think about what he's going to do to this guy. He's just kind of standing there no one's ever asked about Freddy.
Yeah. Like,
it's just everybody's just so concerned with all these dead kids, and no one says, but what about Freddy? What does Freddy need?
Right.
Yeah, fuck it, I'll just kill him.
Everyone's saying like, "Oh, Freddy Krueger is coming into my dreams and killing me." What about Freddy's dreams? No one ever asks about that.
What about Freddy's hopes? Freddy's dreams.
What does Freddy
Felix,
want?
too.
Like Freddy wants to sail, but no one ever asks him about that. I don't even know where to start. Do I go to a marina? Are there classes? I feel like I should have learned earlier, but now I'm in this racket /
Yeah, he just like he spends a lot of time just in quiet contemplation during this last part of this movie, and it's weird, and I get it's because it's kind of, I guess it's supposed to be sort of getting across that he's in this internal struggle with Jesse, but it just sort of looks like he's just sort of thinking it over and deciding, well, maybe I'll be good from now on.
It does sort of look like the camera's just running, and they're like, well, we could cut some of this down. They're like, oh, no. This has to be at least 82 minutes. And they're like, okay, well, I guess we keep that in then.
For 8-year-old me, I really thought, it's like, is this going to work? Someone's trying to reach through to Freddy, and Freddy seems to be understanding. And oh no, that poor man. I just remember being so sad that he got his throat slashed and thrown into a barbecue.
It's very early Kylo Ren worship where they're like, oh, he can be redeemed. Look at him without his shirt on. I do believe.
I want to see Robert Englund shirtless. Thank you.
We'll get there. We'll get to the chest of souls eventually. I do think that "help yourself, fucker" would be an all-timer line if the camera were pointed at him when he says it. But that doesn't happen. Brian Wimmer gets slashed across his beautiful sculpted chest and thrown into a barbecue, and that's the last we see of him. I consider him dead because of the chest slashing, but who's to say? He might recover from his wounds.
And that'll be the last time he tries to reach out in a spirit of brotherhood and kindness.
No, he learned his fucking lesson.
You get a couple of reaction shots here of like the guy who looks like Napoleon Dynamite's brother. And with this tiny little mustache. He's the most teen looking person in the party, though. I think that's good casting.
Yeah.
And then there's this lady with this amazing haircut. It's just like a potted plant, sort of wild and crazy, about 10 inches high.
Yeah, she has a modified Rogue from the X-Men sort of thing where there's a poodle part on top and then it goes straight into mullet in the back.
But she always looks bored, even when Freddy's advancing to murder her. She just looks bored.
Yeah. Well, it was a long day. At this point, that's when Meryl's dad does. If you have a gun cabinet that can be felled with a chair, it may not be as secured as you want it to be. That's just a public service announcement from us here at Kill by Kill, Starfield. Ba 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 ba.
If you don't think that he's taken Meryl gun training, you are crazy. He always wanted a son, but he got Lisa. And Lisa is just as good, and he takes her out shooting all the time. He trusts her. He doesn't need to lock it up.
That's true. This is where we get You're All My Children Now, which is a great shot. It's probably the last great shot we're going to see here because someone's going to decide to leave set early, I guess, is what happens in the next 10 minutes. But the flip side of this is, again, a group of teens and young adults who have not been coached at all to look scared. They all fail at this. And then Freddy's like, fuck y'all, I'm going home, and walks through that wood lattice T2 style, and it bursts into flame.
I was very surprised the dad didn't die.
Yes. No adult seems to die in these movies, not at least until the next one. Adults seem immune from being slashed or turned into giant bugs or becoming part of a soul pizza.
Yeah, it's like, I guess, the whole thing with them, he feeding on your fear, or all. I guess, adult fear isn't as nutritious.
It doesn't feel as good going down as teen fear does. And so Lisa's like, well, if none of y'all are going to do anything about it, I am. She gets out of her mother's very loose grip and runs for the deadly dinosaur. Cut to the freestanding boiler room that Freddy used to work at. This is where we learn that Jesse's car has one headlight that's just pointed directly to the ground for no fucking reason. It's a terrible headlight.
She's going to the town fire factory.
Yeah, that's where they make fire, apparently. And this is where we meet some very cute face puppies. Puppies who want those faces
they were
off.
just missing. They were just missing the banjo music.
This is not quite as creepy as it came off in the 78 version of Invasion of the Body Snatchers. It's just
but
sad.
what could be?
Nothing that I'm aware of. Of course, this.
Yeah, they literally look like just dogs with like rubber masks, like just kind of carefully pulled over their faces. And we're going to film this as long as they let us film it.
Yes. Every shot is 2 seconds away from a dog just pawing at it.
They really get a lot of mileage out of these creepy dog like they aren't moving or anything. It's just a dog wearing a mask.
The dogs can't see. They don't even know where to go. They're beginning voice commands. They're like, oh, all right, fine.
It's a notch above. Do you remember that dog with like a scorpion tail from Star Trek, the original series? It's like one notch above that in terms of proficiency in special effects.
It does remind me of, they ended up not using it, but in Alien 3, they had this idea that if they made an alien suit for a whippet, because a whippet's very thin, that it would look like a dog alien. It just looks like a cute dog with a costume on. And it just trots away. And you're like, oh, that's adorable. And I thought this, oh man, we get the theme lighting throughout the rest of this, where apparently they could afford a red light and a green light. It's not exactly Suspiria level mood happening here. Just if you're going to do it, go whole hog, but don't give me a couple of lights, man. Just go for it. All right.
And there's a couple of fog machines clustered right around those lights, but not anywhere else. Because you get this tracking shot that we have to talk about, this crane shot.
Sure. Yeah, I thought it was a helicopter shot, but no, it's definitely a crane shot. But
it's a good, I don't know if it's a good crane shot. There's a little bit of wobble to it, but you can tell they only really had time to do it once, because they do it once, and someone must have noticed, as I pointed out to Gina and Patrick on the Twitter, the man in the upper right corner.
Or they never anticipated, they didn't know what the framing was. Like, did they think this was going to be presented in 4:3?
That's going to be in, unless they had like a 2:3. They probably wouldn't have shot this like 2:3 for the feature distribution, right? This would have been a
185-1 sort of set.
Yeah. And that's definitely in frame. Like, you see this man in the upper, I think it's because they only got to do the shot once. There's a man in the upper right corner carrying a coffee, just walking calmly through the set. It's fantastic.
Should we get another one? Billy was in the frame. Moving on. And this is where we get lots of Freddy tricks. Now we're sort of reverting back to Freddy in the boiler room sort of thing. But we're not sure how to do this because, again, she isn't dreaming. So how does Freddy's dream powers work when someone isn't asleep?
But you said before, Joyce from the first movie got killed when no one was asleep, right?
Well,
but did she though?
Did she? We don't know, because she shows up at the coda and we don't know if that's real or not. We definitely know the dummy they pull through the door isn't real, but
someone killed her mom in the beginning of this one, that the mom was killed.
Her mom committed suicide.
The mom killed herself.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Which is like, that feels a little slightly retconning, but whatever, I mean, but this whole sequence feels very much like a sort of like mid-range fun house. like not county fair, low level fun house, but maybe a step above that where it's oh well, last year we did the haunted hospital. This year let's do the haunted factory. And it's just like, here's the rats, here's the creepy lighting, here's the fog bank. It's just it doesn't. It may have been why. I mean, they very easily could have done this whole sequence at the party, and that's maybe why I remembered it as ending at the party. But I don't know. None of this really works for me.
You don't think that cat puppet with abnormally large teeth works?
Weird.
I mean, that's a miracle. I mean, practically Jim Henson created. It's so well done.
You could almost see you could barely see the person's forearm underneath the puppet operating.
Yeah, that scary rat puppet getting eaten by a scary cat puppet wasn't unexpected for sure.
Yeah, you rarely think I'm going to watch a Nightmare on Elm Street movie, but I don't know. I'm very afraid of Muppet on Muppet violence. This probably won't be triggering. And you're like, oh my God, no.
Are you also afraid of your wounds festering and being covered in bugs?
Yeah. Are those ants? Are those flies? What's happening? What's the deal there?
I thought they were ants.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah. Because they're not maggots, but maggots would make more sense. But why try making sense now?
They don't have maggots. They don't have a maggot budget.
We don't have a maggot budget. Go smash open an ant farm and bring it over here. Let's slap it on Meryl's leg. Or at least her stunt double's leg. So this leaves us finally with Freddy appearing to Meryl, and they have drama. I don't know how to describe it.
It's a moment, and again, he's just standing there waiting for her to do something, which that's. I mean, granted, this is only the second movie into the series, but the Freddy I have known by this point was very proactive. he did not stand there and like, you got to come at me. I mean, are we doing this, or I'll just wait for you to I'll wait for you to figure out what you want to do. I mean, I got all day.
It's a very Steven Seagal way of being a slasher, where instead of hunting and killing teens, you wait for them to come at you, and then whammo, you slam them into the beer locker.
Exactly. Like he just like waits for things to happen to him, and it just doesn't feel. It feels like they're trying for something new, and then they just completely did away with that for the next all the subsequent movies.
Yeah, they do not carry forward the Freddy is melted by heteronormative love. And then
they don't do that. They don't continue with the pensive Freddy.
No, that does not continue. They don't pick up that thread and then piece it through where it really pays off and Freddy's dead by part 6. This is something, whatever they gooped onto the railings is very obvious when they light it on fire, because the icicles of it light on fire. It all seems very first take. Like, here's what it's like some sort of
flammable Vaseline or something.
I think it's Nomex. I think it's the stuff that you put on a person when they're going to catch on fire, but you don't want the person underneath to catch on fire. And so they put that fire gel on there, and it doesn't look great. And then Freddy sort of melts like he looked into the Lost Ark when it's opened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a very, very similar effect.
Yeah, never microwave your Freddy.
That's when she tries to make out with Freddy, right?
Yes, that's when we learn that 'twas beauty killed the beast, John. Freddy is so lit in this sequence that he literally catches on fire and just fucking slumps over. The last movie, he catches on fire for a good 5 minutes, and it doesn't seem to bother him. Here, he just curls up.
He's wailing and curling up, and it's like, well, all right, I guess this is going to happen.
Okay, I'm done. And then he just goes into a child's pose. And movie over.
It's just, I've been defeated by love.
Oh my God. And like a butterfly emerging from the chrysalis, Jesse crawls out of the burnt husk of an overdone Kruger.
that first shot of him emerging with his O face, he's got this like big, like inflatable doll mouth. Like, it's real weird.
He does not look jazzed to be back, Jesse. He doesn't look thrilled that he's not trapped inside of Freddy Krueger anymore. He kind of is like, oh, we're back to this, are we?
He looks a little bit like he's waking up from anesthesia. He looks a little tired, a little confused.
Oh boy, yeah, it's not the finest moment. But there you go. I really do like this movie. I want to say that out loud. It has better moments. I like it too.
It's just, yeah, and then like I said, the coda is very weird because again, poor Grady. I guess we just forgot about him.
What I really love about that coda is when Jesse emerges out of the house complete with hand bandages. Because I guess he was only burned on the hands. Okay. But his like John Bender fist pump. Yes. Yes.
To the school bus.
When he quote unquote celebrates is it's not great. It's one of the saddest victory dances I've ever seen.
So were his arms
he looks
injured?
Very happy. Like, I mean, if my closest friend had died, I mean, there's a thing called survivor's guilt, and like nobody seems to. And this leaves a lot of questions. Like, did anybody explain where Jesse was this whole time?
Yeah, like everyone they saw this burned guy in this red and green sweater, and they're like, well, obviously Jesse didn't kill anyone. Is that what we're down to here?
I guess
because everyone did see Freddy.
Yeah.
Right. But what was he? I mean, surely he didn't tell the cops, well, I was, trapped inside the serial killer's body.
I mean, he might have. I mean, in the last movie, a cop goes, hey, my ex-wife, she descended into some sort of poltergeist waterbed and she dead now. And they're like, okay. And they type committed suicide. And, they just feel like, oh, what are you going to do?
Hey, Nancy, make sure you write that in your diary if anyone asks.
You got to corroborate in your diary you're going to leave behind.
So were his arms injured by the blades coming out? Because you saw them like...
But his fingers aren't bandaged, just the palms of his hands.
I sort of saw that as like a erection metaphor. And then when she was hitting on him, his erection went away. And that's why it shriveled up back into his hands.
Ooh. I mean, there's a lot of flaming wieners in this movie. Yeah, there's all sorts of problems in that particular. The one guy who's thrilled at the end of this movie is the guy wearing the neon green caftan in the bus when Jesse walks on. He's got a grin a mile wide, like, oh, Jesse's back. Oh, he's sitting with Meryl.
Another one-take shot is right after that when the bus is driving by, there's this guy in a black Cavalier that seems to be waiting to back out of his parking space. And really mad that they're making him wait until the shot is done.
Oh, man.
Like he's staring at the camera angry.
He is. I have to alert everyone. The thing that you were hoping for that happens in this movie does happen. That's right. The return of the kid from the boombox from the first bus sequence is back. This time, no boombox, but he is wearing a black members only jacket, and he's thrilled to be entering the bus. So if you had that on your bingo card, make sure to check it. And then the bus drives too fast and Jesse freaks out and Meryl tells him to stop. And then the bus stops and boombox kid gets on and, oh, Jesse, it's going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine.
And then Carrie makes a sarcastic remark, great party, Lisa. Yeah, 6 people died.
Yeah. People are dead.
It's like, oh, remember that party where the guy like got so drunk and he fell under the table and knocked all the snacks over? Yeah, that was a great party, Lisa. People died, Carrie.
Oh, she's acting like someone pooped their pants at this pool party or dropped a Butterfinger in the pool. There are dead people in that backyard.
I mean, Carrie, Lisa's family's probably got to move out of town after all the money they're paying for the lawsuits.
Oh, they are losing that house real quick. There's
For sure.
no, that the insurance alone is going to be a nightmare. But we don't have to worry about that for too long because Carrie gives birth to a Freddy hand alien. No, you never saw that coming.
And then they drive into the prog rock album again.
Yes, and we end where we started, just running over Joshua trees. Which don't do that. It takes 300 years for them to grow back. Don't fucking do that. It's not worth it for your dumb movie, everyone. So there you have it. That is Freddy's Revenge. And so that brings us back to a tried and true feature here of the Kill by Kill podcast. And that is choose your own death adventure time. And unlike some of the episodes we've had as late, we have a real cornucopia to choose from. So we're going to start with, do you want to die by getting your face slashed? Do you want to be exploded like a hot dog? Do you have a chest slash and then tossed into a barbecue? Do you want to be gutted by a glove? Do you want to be trampled by party goers? Do you want to be boiled to death in a pool? Or how about just burned to death and maybe someone comes out of your husk? And those are your options. And John, as our guest, I choose you to go first.
I think that I'm really buying Gina's plan for the pit in hell in the backyard. So I will say falling into a pit of hell.
Falling into the pit of hell, it definitely is up there. Now, you're going to have to display to everyone that you have the inability to climb a brick wall first.
Oh, I don't think anyone would question my inability to climb.
But you
a brick wall.
deadlift very heavy things.
That's true, but I'm not good at the pulling up.
Okay, so
Pulling up's a little tricky.
you were more of a pushing strength rather than a pulling.
Exactly.
I see. Well, say no.
Well, see,
more.
he could have, but he probably could have. That means you could have effectively, ran yourself through a wooden fence, though, and saved everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You just get that upper body strength, just like, just like push right through it.
I wholeheartedly
Could have
believe that.
juggernauted.
Yeah, you could have run over that wood fence in a heartbeat, and I doubt very much you would have burst into flames when you did it. There's only like a 10% chance.
But that was a confirmed kill, right? That's the
that fellow was not making it back.
Okay.
No, he's burned to death. He's burned to death. Gina, what say you?
Well, like, as I said earlier, I don't want this death. I just know this would be my death. And that's, again, getting trampled and having my neck broken, like a Mr. Salty pretzel stick.
Oh, and then you have to dribble out that blood. Now you're gonna have to hold that in your mouth the whole time.
I got that strawberry Jolly Rancher in my mouth, all ready to go.
Got that fruit squisher ready to explode. Out of all of these things, how do I want to go? Here's the thing. Here's how I know I would go. I would invariably be running around in an inappropriately colored striped polo and get gutted to death. I just know that. I just know that that's true. It's not what I want. It's what I know what would happen. That's what it comes down to.
But what would you want?
Well, what I want, I would want to explode like a hot dog.
Just go blip and just like
Smack.
just spray like heated meat in all directions.
That's right. I want to go out like that guy who finds a spider in a spacesuit in Outland, just explode.
Oh God.
If that father had died after trying to shoot Freddy, that would have been the lock for your choice.
Oh, that's very true. Yes. Big
chesty shirtless dad.
I was gonna say,
chesty shirtless dad whose couch was ruined. That's
just
me.
beautiful boobies on full display.
For all to see. I still don't know how his pajama pants work. There's a belt involved in it, but does it fasten in the back or is he sewn into it? I don't know. It's just like, how do you pee in it? I have so many questions, but they'll have to be answered on another day. So before we go, let's do some plugs. Why don't we? John, why don't you tell everyone where they can find out more about you and what you do?
Well, you can follow me on the Twitter at Johnny Firebird or Johnny
Barnstorm.
It's Johnny Barnstorm. Yeah. And there I post about video games mostly. I try to leave politics aside because it's terrifying to talk about that on the internet. You can also find me on Square Roots Podcast, which we play through a classic RPG a chunk at a time. And you can find me on previous episodes of Kill by Kill. Like there's a Friday the 13th Part 5 episode and a Jason Goes to Hell episode.
Yes. And our Thanksgiving episode.
Right.
But that Part 5 is one for the record books. It's a real doozy. We talk about a lot of deaths in that one, and it is revelatory. We learn a lot about each other and about life and about digging up corpses
Was that the
to
one with the
fuck
Leather
them.
Boys?
What's that?
Was the Leather Boys Part 5?
Yes, the Leather Boys
It
is Part
was.
5, yeah. That's where I learned, and I've repeated several times, that we know that one guy is the dom in the relationship because, as you told me, he won't shit in front of his sub because that would be demeaning.
That was
Exactly.
also, I believe that was also the same episode in which two dudes showed up to dig up Jason's corpse and fuck it.
Yes, that,
Right.
that is something that totally happens in that movie, and you can't prove otherwise. If you have proof, my guess is you're just guessing, because there's no other reason for them to act like that. So check and mate, motherfucker. And so that pretty much does it for us. But before we go, hey, Gina, where can people find you on the internet?
I have my own website at ginaradcliffe.com where I write about old TV and movies and pop culture. I am also a writer at thespool.net where my recent reviews include Pet Sematary, which I enjoyed a lot, and which, if you are a member of our Patreon, you can listen to a bonus episode in which we talk about that. And I also reviewed the Netflix exclusive The Silence, which is utter fucking garbage. So I've been told that my negative reviews are more entertaining than my positive ones, so you can feel free to seek that one out. It has the best headline I could possibly come up with. I'm not going to tell you because I need the clicks. So go ahead and find that on thespool.net.
Do
And
it.
I'm also on Twitter. I'm also on Twitter under Porcelain72.
And you mentioned Patreon, so what's happening on that front?
Nothing.
Oh, good.
We have no new patrons to report.
Nothing is happening. We can just excise that. Hey, you mentioned Patreon. And so if people would like to support us and the podcast that we do financially, there's an easy way to do it. Go to patreon.com/killbykill. And we have all sorts of bonus content every single month. We have a new episode coming out. This last one we did was Pet Cemetery. Next month, it will be a listener's choice. If you're at the $10 level, you can tell us within reason what to watch, and we will talk about it for at least 45 minutes to an hour, sometimes more, depending on how crazy and Italian it is. Just some of the wildest shit we've ever watched in our entire life is contained there. So I urge you to check it out. Of course, if you want to communicate with us here at the Kill by Kill podcast, there's a few ways to do it. One, on Twitter at Kill by Kill Pod. And then on Facebook, we have the group and the page. Either one works, but the group is where we talk about things in depth. Things are kind of heating up over that way. On Instagram, Kill by Kill Podcast. And that just about does it for us. But don't worry, folks. The body count, strangely enough, will continue, even though Freddy Krueger appears to have been burned up and melted and gone away. I'm reading now that he menaces children in a mental health facility, which should be a ball of laughs. I'm reading. It's very funny, weirdly enough. So look forward to that. So until next time, for myself, Regina, and Johnny, bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Kill by Kill is produced by We Write Good and is intended for entertainment purposes only. A Nightmare on Elm Street is owned by New Line Cinema. No infringement is intended. Kill by Kill's logos were created by Josh Hollis. Visit him at joshhollis.com. The Kill by Kill theme was created exclusively for us by Revenge Body. Get the whole track and much, much more at revengebodymemphis.com. www.bandcamp.com today.